we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Come on, and welcome aboard to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Welcome back as we're back in the studio here on this Monday. Looking forward to another fun week. Alec Lasley will join us here in a little bit. We'll get a recap on what went on over the weekend on the AAU circuit as it gets up and running. A lot going on with Indiana football as Tom Allen has hit the Triple Crown in recruiting with the McCullough brothers. We'll talk about that. Charlie Miller, of course, will be along with us. And Robbie Eggers is going to join us today as well. So lots to talk about here on this Monday. It is not only is it Monday, it's a new day, period, with the weather. Man, Saturday just stunk, rain and cold. And then all of a sudden, boom, Sunday comes in and hello, spring has arrived. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Hope you're having a great day today and a good start to your week. Plenty went on over the weekend, like I said, on the AAU circuit. Alec's going to join us here a little bit, and we'll talk about that. But nothing bigger than what's going on with Indiana football. I mean, that is just gigantic. The McCullough brothers, that is a triple crown. And that is a ton of talent that just those guys are bringing. And I know, yeah, they're the sons of a coach here, but hey, man, they made their own decision. But regardless of that, it doesn't matter. That just continues to add talent to Indiana football. Join us on the YouTube hotline as well. Forrest says, hey, Alan's up. Says, hope you had a relaxing weekend. Yeah, it was something. It was nice to get away. I'm not going to lie. Let's see. The recruiting traction is just, it's so funny that we're balancing football talk, football recruiting talk, and basketball recruiting talk. It's still a hard thing to grasp from a media standpoint. It's just not something you're or as a fan. It's crazy, but Indiana's recruiting in football has been decent. They've been okay, but they've relied more on development. They've developed more players than they've recruited, and it's what they've had to. They've not been able to get those names. But as the importance of this, I'm gonna have to pull this stat back up. JB sent me a long time ago. I'm gonna find that one. But you can see if you look at the columns how the recruiting keeps moving over, and now this is the same thing. The recruiting just continues to exponentially and statistically improve for Indiana, and that will only improve play on the field as well. It's crazy that the biggest talk this morning is about Indiana football recruiting. But, man, it's a new day, like I said, and I'm looking so forward to it. I'm here for it. It's a lot more fun to cover this stuff. Man, the excitement that will build. The excitement that will build with other recruits. When the good players want to play with the good players. We talk about that all the time. And football they need to land that first 5-star, and that changes things. Alex Lasley's jumping on here with us. Alec, how are you, brother?
Good. How are you doing?
Great. We'll change topics real quick, talking about how crazy it is to be talking about how big of recruiting Indiana football is landing while we're talking about the great Indiana basketball. This stuff at the same time. This is just new territory, and it's crazy. It's just nuts, but it's fun times. But this weekend, not Indiana basketball, but the AAU circuit really back in play. A couple different places. They were up and going in north of Indianapolis, in Fort Wayne as well. Actually, some other places down in Atlanta. So all over the place, man.
Yeah, it was probably the kind of a nice way to jumpstart AAU season. I know there's been a couple other events so far this spring, but it was kind of the first real big time event in over a year, since they didn't really have much last year going on. So it was good to, not only get back out there, look at some of these recruits for the first time in over a year. For a lot of guys, it was really their first time even playing, high competitive basketball over the past 6 months, with a lot of seasons that were shortened due to COVID. So it was a good time to see everyone out there and get back into the groove of things as we're moving forward to the rest of the spring and obviously the beginning of summer, where things are now going to feel a lot more like a normal recruiting year.
A quick question. Indiana seems to be over the limit for next year with the Bates edition. Where are they with that? Yeah,
I mean, so for this upcoming year, they're going to be fine. They have all their scholarships in order for the 2022 season. They are one over as of now, but that's assuming that Rob Finney, Race Thompson, and a couple other guys do end up coming back. I don't think you're gonna see Trace Jackson Davis for another year after this upcoming year. So just if you look at that right there, that scholarship limit would then even out with CJ Gunn coming in and then Trace Jackson Davis leaving. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. Coaches recruit for unlimited scholarships all the time, and then they just find a way to kind of move the pieces together and kind of fill that puzzle. So won't be a big issue. I think Indiana's going to end up having more scholarships available than a couple people are thinking as we continue to move forward into that season. So I think it'll be fine for Indiana, and you'll see some new faces pop up.
It brings to mind the possibility of a red shirt for one of last year's freshmen.
Yeah,
Trey Galloway comes to mind. I don't know. I don't think Christian Lander. I think they want to develop that talent. Trey Galloway, Leal. I don't know either one of them. Very, very. I guess maybe Geronimo, but I don't think so. I think he's got too much talent. But those two guys are very possible for, especially Leal, with he's being a hometown kid. Very possible red shirts there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you looked at this past year, and a lot of people kind of thought maybe Anthony Leal would have a redshirt year. Obviously, with the COVID-free year, there was no reason to do that. So I think you look at that as a real possibility moving into to this upcoming year, just because that backcourt and that wing position is so crowded with so many different bodies. In terms of Jordan Geronimo, I don't think that's going to be a guy that you look at, just because you want to make sure you still have enough bodies to kind of throw in that front court. And I think he would do a lot better getting more on-court action, just because throughout his high school years, he just didn't have as much, high major games and high major competition as some of these other guys did. So I think those two names, maybe Anthony Leal as the one guy that you would look at that they could potentially have a redshirt year.
Absolutely. And I know they're working very, very hard already for 2022. The one thing that I keep seeing is they seem to be getting really guard heavy, which I'm sure there's a rhyme and reason to that to a degree, but man, they seem a big light right now, much less going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're going to see that, especially with Mike Woodson. He's a guy who's going to he's even said multiple times he wants multiple ball handlers, multiple playmakers on the floor. The only way to do that is have multiple kind of interchangeable guards and wings where they can play 1 through 3. And even some of those 2 and 3s stretch out to be a 4, where you have 4 guards or 4 wings on the floor at times. And because of that, you're just going to need a lot more bodies. You're going to need a lot more ball handlers, shooters. And that's where Indiana's trending. That's what Mike Woodson wants to do. That's kind of what you see in the NBA as well, and that's what he's bringing to IU. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. I mean, we've talked about it before. You look at Gonzaga and Baylor, the two teams playing in the national championship game this past year, and they had 4 guards on the floor 90% of the game. Especially for Baylor, that's very difficult to defend, especially when you have at least 2 of those guys who can knock down shots and 2 other guys who can make plays off of the dribble. And that's kind of what Indiana is going for, especially when they recruit for the 2022 class, but also what they have right now and what they brought back going into next year.
Yeah, and that wing position, a very big part of that, where I've talked about, they basically had nothing from that position for the last couple of years. And no shooting, no drive, no slash, no nothing. And so they with an addition there, that'll give them some activity, and hopefully that changes the offense. But yeah, it has been that's been a position that has been basically blank for the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the one major thing is you just didn't know what any of those guys were going to do on any given night. You didn't have a kind of a specific role for any of those players. And that's why I think you look at specifically Jerome Hunter as that guy who's really going to kind of take that next step. We've talked about it before, but I think really having a designated role for him more than any other guy on the wing and kind of in that stretch hybrid position at the forward position is going to benefit him the most. I think Mike Woodson is going to really know how to develop his game and really hone in on what he does specifically for this Indiana team to make not only him better, but that Indiana roster better. Something that I think the previous staff was kind of lacking in terms of not really knowing how to use him, especially coming off of the injury his freshman season.
Yep. I've always said that it's the Big Ten. You have to play the Big Ten one way. When you play during the season, you play Michigan and Purdue and all those teams of the size, you get to the tournament, it's a different game. It is not the Big Ten. That's why you saw so many Big Ten teams get killed this year. I think it was a different game. It was speed. It was more of positionless basketball, where a lot of those teams relied so much offensively on structure and big and size, and it was slower and they were exposed. I mean, it works when you're playing against that and you can control it, but man, when you get outside of that world, it changes things and it can be exposed, and it was.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I mean, I think the one team you look at specifically is Iowa, and kind of the ineffectiveness they had in the NCAA tournament playing against much smaller teams of those first couple games. But yeah, just like you said, a lot of the Big Ten teams play for the Big Ten season, and they don't necessarily look for the NCAA tournament. And that's what, has obviously been a major struggle for the Big Ten over the past 2 decades, not winning that many games in the NCAA tournament and not getting very far in the NCAA tournament, where you look at, either Pac-12 teams, Big 12 teams, SEC teams that have had just a lot more success in going much farther because they do play that kind of positionless basketball and make teams adjust to them and not the other way around, which especially Indiana's not been able to do. They've had to do the adjusting, not force the other teams to adjust to them.
Absolutely. I know, Alec, you got to get running, so we'll let you go. But thank you so much, brother. We appreciate you as always.
Appreciate it. Talk to you later this week.
You bet. Coming up next, Charlie Miller is going to join us. We'll continue along. We've got plenty to get to. Robbie Eggers is going to join us today as well. Lots to talk about. Man, the Derby's coming up. You've got Indianapolis 500 coming up. Talladega was last night. I didn't get to finish the race late last night watching it, so I don't know who won. But I guess it doesn't matter. Well, I'm sure I'll find out between now and then, so it'll ruin my surprise. But who cares? But so we'll talk about that. Plenty to get to. I hope you guys are having a good start to your week. Charlie Miller's up next. We're back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Jim Coyle back after this. Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking for a new or man, are you fucking kidding me? My favorite new shirt and my coffee right there already. God dang.
What's it say on it? What's it say on your shirt?
Stained ass new shirt.
I meant on the chest.
Pete Dye. It's from the Pete Dye course.
Oh, okay. So you got it this past Friday.
Yeah, but I love the color, but now I'm freaking, God damn it. Coffee stain. It only happens on the light colored shirts. It doesn't happen on the dark. That doesn't happen on the dark ones.
Yeah. Never
spill a thing on the dark shirts. Gee whiz. Well, that's a nice little segment.
Yeah, I agree. Nice little surprise. Seeing Alec on Monday.
All right. Boy, this is let's see. Who hit the portal in football?
I think they're still referring to the 2 defensive linemen, the Jeremy Passmore and DeMarjo Lewis. They're just talking about that. Oh, no, I said defensive. Well, yeah, because it is two linemen, unless I don't know.
Well,
I think they lost 2 more linemen.
If that means that there's just writing on the wall, like you said, rush you.
Because I didn't see, unless I just missed it, I didn't see anything other than the McCullough news in football yesterday.
Yeah, that's because McCullough news covers everything else up. Oh, yeah, where's this comment they made? Look at that one. There we go. Nope. There you go.
Especially with Woodson as the head coach, a Bob Knight disciple, that's not happening.
Well, what? This?
The names on the back of the jerseys.
Here's the thing about that. I could give a crap less, and I'll say this on air. I could give a crap less about tradition, all that. That has nothing to do with nothing. I'm going to wait till we go on.
Especially in this day and age. The student athletes don't.
It has nothing to do with being Indiana to me. There are certain sports, basketball being one of them, you don't need names on the damn jerseys. You can see their faces and their numbers, and there's only freaking 12 of them. If you can't memorize the 12 members on your team, then you got a problem.
Yeah.
Period. You need names on football jerseys. You should have names on baseball jerseys, softball jerseys.
And a premier resort experience that is waiting for you on your next visit to French Lick, West Baden.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Welcome back to the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios. Jim Coyle with you as always. Brought to you by Andy Moore Honda. Hope everyone's having a great start to the week. Charlie Miller joins us. Perfect timing. How are you, sir?
Good. How you doing, Jim?
Great. Just perfect timing because a little discussion popping up here, which names on the jerseys things. I could give a crap less about names on the jerseys on virtually any sport. I don't care about any of them, but I just don't think it's needed on basketball jerseys because you can see who they are. You can see their numbers. There's only 12 of them. If you can't remember 12 guys, you're not a damn fan of that team. But baseball, football, softball, whatever, names on the jerseys, it's too difficult. It's not about that. Has nothing to do with whether or not you're playing for who's on the front. That's bunk. But basketball, I just don't think it's needed. So if you want to add that to the tradition part, which I do, we'll add that to the traditional part there. Fine. Not needed on that regard. But the rest of them, absolutely, they are needed, I think.
Yeah.
But you are a basketball player. What's your thought?
Well, my thoughts are simply this. What I was told, it's more you're playing for Indiana, right? Not for Team Miller, Team Evans, right? So I get that. And it's a buy-in, right? It's a buy-in process that you pass the torch from year to year, generation to generation. So I feel it'll be refreshing, but it's not something that I feel is needed. That's just my take. Like you just said, you don't know the players of your team, you're not a fan.
Yeah. It's really for me, for basketball, it would get in the way.
Yeah.
It takes away from a nice, clean look of the Indiana jerseys, whether it's the red ones or the white ones. Boom, boom, nice. You've got the stars there for the national championships.
Right.
I'm good with that. I have never, ever had any problem. No, even the walk-ons, knowing who the players were. So it's not about the tradition, but I like the clean look. If you want to call that the tradition, cool. I like that the tradition, but they tried that with football. It doesn't work. You've got double numbers in football. The guys are using the same number. You're so far away. You don't see. There's no recognition. Yeah, you have to have them there. So it's about the situation.
I've seen in football where they said the double number jerseys, which a number 3 on offense, number 3 on defense, but like that to me is absurd. But and at the same time, when you have a long last name, or someone wants to put junior or senior,
or the third or the fourth,
right? Now I can see if it was the XFL Remember they had all the nicknames in the XFL.
Oh yeah.
He
hate me.
Yeah,
he hate me.
Hey, yeah, you hate me, and all these names, and so I mean, to me, I think that's kind of fitting. But school like IU, nah, we just keep it as is.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So Tim just says, Alan, we just don't want to see Jim with his shirt off. Well, that's not happening. Don't worry. But yeah, I agree. Just it's fine the way it is. We're good there. Big weekend for Indiana football. I know you probably don't get to cover that, but Delon McCullough came here right after the Super Bowl. He has 3 sons that are very good players. All are playing for Bloomington South and moving along. All 3 of them are now committed to play for Indiana.
Yeah.
One just decommitted flipped from Ohio State. Just big news. It's a triple crown for Tom Allen. It's just the recruiting is the fact, and I've said this a little earlier, Charlie, and the fact that you're here, the fact that we're talking about Indiana football recruiting with equality to Indiana basketball recruiting now is absolutely stunning. And we're doing just that.
And one thing, I would love to share, and I feel fans, as much knowledge now is out there, I think they know this. You got to think about this. The mystique of playing at Indiana for basketball purposes, it may not be the school itself, but the coaches and what they've done, the program, what they've done. Now you got that same feel for football. Now, because top recruits talk to other top recruits. 4 or 5-star guys talk. Right now with social media. Hey, we want to go play for Coach Tom Allen. They may not say IU. No disrespect. We want to go play for Coach Tom Allen because of what we see that locker room. We see that culture. We love what they're doing. He can help us get to the next level, whatever that might be in every walk of life. So that's the talk that goes on amongst, top players around the country. And I'm more than certain now Indiana's in that spiel.
Absolutely. And looking forward to how it continues to play out. And you're right. And I talked about earlier, I had a graph that someone, JB, sent me that it showed, it went back like 20 years. And when it started, the 80% of the recruiting was, I think, 2 stars. Yep. And as I went down, when they got their first 4-star, then after that, they started getting, there was not a year that they didn't get 4 stars. And then at the bottom of this, by the time I got to the bottom of that 20-year range, it had moved completely over where they averaged over 3 stars. Now the recruiting has jumped an entire star,
right.
Which, if that makes sense to everybody, it has jumped an entire level. And that is huge because you're talking 125 people on a roster.
And we're not talking, and this is one of the things that, like, as far as player development goes, like, we're not talking just because you're winning. The accumulation of getting better over time, no one cares about. It's not sexy. We just want to see the football game. We want to see the win and loss. But the accumulation of talent over time to move a whole star is primal cues, external factors, master coaching, team buy-in, camaraderie, all those elements that get me excited that you can take across the theme from business to sports is what you see now on display at Indiana for football.
Yeah, and the excitement that it all brings, because it all continues to boil into one thing.
That's right. That's right.
You can throw in, like I said before, you can throw in women's basketball program and all that in there.
No question.
Because that excitement continues. Men's soccer, men's baseball, but men's soccer about to enter the NCAA tournament. Just the excitement continues to roll.
Jim, just think about this. Think about when UConn's men's would win a national championship in in basketball on both sides. Just think about that fanfare. But the football team was like a Division II school. Like, it's a Division II school, UConn football, but basketball was Division I, and they were always winning, right? Think about Baylor, women's, men's winning, same time. But now Indiana, now look at what we got going on. Soccer, basketball with women's, football, basketball's coming up for guys, right? So there's a lot of excitement going around in Bloomington, I can only imagine.
Yeah, Tony says Yeah, I said that last week because of these 4 teams that they are entering a golden age. It is unprecedented. I've said that because we've never had that ever. Something else that comes to mind I wanted to hit on real quick because I saw it and I shake my head. Kim Mulkey. Kim Mulkey is one of the greatest women's coaches that there is. There has been. Has just been uber successful. Right. Led Baylor. Has made them. Yeah. She could have gone any place in the country, and I would have been wow, boom. But you go to LSU, I don't care what. LSU is just nothing but a bastion of cheating in their programs. Both basketball and football are under investigation. It's not something. LSU is just not something that you've got all the problems that they had come out that's coming out with the previous football coach, Les Miles. Right. This stuff has gone on for years. Right. Maybe they're doing what they can to buy some good PR, and maybe that's having her come in is part of that. I don't know, but that was more than a little surprising to me to see her go to LSU.
Well, I know that's home state for her as well. So who knows if after 20 years being at Baylor, all the things she's done at Baylor. And also, I mean, as a former player, she played at a high level too. So who knows now if going back to Louisiana is something that she wanted to do, probably finish out her career as a potential. Yeah, she'll be able to get top recruits because of that transfer portal. I mean, it's not like you got to go, start over from ground zero.
She could take her own team with her if she wanted to.
My whole point. And trust me, so if she had some 2022s and 23s in mind, that swing of the pendulum, I definitely can see happening. So yeah, I'm not surprised about it, but I hear you what you're saying on your tape.
You missed it earlier, Rusty. Jones said one of the listeners says I'm a pig because I spilled coffee on my new shirt.
Man. Well,
he's so right, man. I was so disappointed.
I might just spill coffee myself just to match you, man. Say,
man, that's because you're just a great guy. Let's see, where are we now? Let's make sure we're not. All right, betting back to Indiana recruiting now. They have to look forward. I was talking. Alec Lasley was on with us earlier, and although they're filled for next year, with the Bates edition, that means there's still something cooking. And now that brought up after talking with Alec, I'm thinking, okay, now I'm thinking we're probably going to see a red shirt this season. And the two most likely candidates to me, that would be Anthony Leal or Trey Galloway. Yeah. So now I'm thinking that one of those two guys are going to redshirt this year.
Well, I'm definitely seeing that because I just continue to look at Coach Woodson's pressers, and he's continually searching that transfer portal. And I think it's all about really selling the value of what he's looking to bring as a first-year head coach in college to his system, which I'm more than certain is probably geared around more player development. And I feel that's going to be the attraction to still say we can pull probably another piece or two from the transfer portal to really and also that can contribute, probably with some experience, right? So the criteria might be a little higher than just getting, someone with potential. They might want to go for somebody who's kind of player ready.
And what cracks me up is we're going into a team that is looking to be more than fully stocked, fully locked and loaded, coming off of a team that was undermanned tremendously.
Right.
You had four freshmen that were not ready to play.
That's right.
You had 2 empty scholarships.
Yeah.
That's 6 bodies.
Right.
6.
That's a difference.
You're not getting anything.
That's and then let's go here. How many players you really played in the heyday of the Big Ten? You probably played a good 8?
Maybe.
Right. So I mean,
Baylor. What Baylor do 7?
Yeah. So at best. So and for me, man, you need 9 to 10 guys knowing what to do, not just buy-in minutes. Like, they need to know what to do. And I think you have an opportunity to have that type of competition. You're probably going to have to redshirt some players because, again, if you're looking for college-ready players that can come in and implement and add value day one, definitely thinking that that's what they're going to probably have to do.
Tim thinks that Tamar Bates, he's got his IMG buddy, Efren Reed, that he is a possibility to come here because he canceled his commitment decision after Bates committed to IU. Man, recruiting was hard enough to keep up with before. It was no fun. This has taken it and magnified it by a factor of 10 because it's reaching a point. You're getting, like, everything's kind of coming to a point where you see the answer.
Right.
This is not. It's like right down to the last second. There's no change until the decision gets made.
Well, and then we don't know the time frame of when they're saying, okay, let's cut it off. Let's shut it off so we can focus on what we're looking to do. Because think about this. I mean, it's May. It's May. Forget April. I'm a now person, but we're talking May. You're really talking 60 to 70 plus days to get this thing in system mode. To really say you've had a good off season, like early summer, late summer, preseason, August, September to get ready to play. We're not talking. I mean, you're talking 60 to 70 days. You're right back at it. So it's interesting that they did not. And again, I don't know how they're saying in the press conference. We're going to stop here on our our transfer portal guys or our recruits. So I know they're working. I'm looking at the pressers and looking at the pictures and hearing things. I know they're working, but it is interesting to say it's kind of up in the air when they're going to stop and focus on what they have.
Yeah, because you've got to get to a point when the development now also that's
right.
They're doing two things.
Right.
They're working
so
hard on the recruiting, like you mentioned, and there's a lot of players they have to decide who's what,
right.
who's going to go where, fix these pieces, developing, start moving forward, getting things going for next year. All that's going on, and that's why, if people want to know why did you need Thad Matta and Thad Matta need an assistant and all these guys, this is why. They are running it like a corporation, and people have roles, and those roles are going to be fulfilled now. You will not have 6 positions that are not filled.
You got it. Hey, listen, this is all delegation, right? Mike Roberts, you working with that? We got to take care of this. Dane, I'm more than certain on relationship, right? Younger kind of, hey, you working on this. Coach Woodson, he's probably on the phones, getting in front of people. But again, the saving grace to me with Coach Woodson is that he can talk to the players and tell him from a playing experience. Archie could do the same thing. Archie played at NC State. Heck, I had a good friend of mine who played with Archie, and I probably crossed paths because I lived in Raleigh for a long time when Archie just first finished at NC State. But from a former player standpoint, who could go to somebody's living room like Mike Woodson and say, I've done these things. I played 11 years in the league. That's going to be an attraction. And I coached in the league. That right there, to me, is like that's an attraction in itself, right? Yep. So he's going to be able to go talk. I got buckets at Indiana. I led the school in scoring my junior year. I know what it's like to get buckets. I know what it's like to develop players. I know what it's like to play for a long time professionally. That right there in itself is, now you just got to trust and have belief in what he's saying. So, I'm not saying this is easy, but you got a big calling card now, Jim. You got a big calling card now.
You hang that Julius Randle jersey up too.
Hey man, there you go. Right.
Hey, we got a lot more coming up.
That's right.
Indiana Sports Beat List coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Monday. Charlie Miller's with us. Robbie Eggers is going to join us. We got plenty more to get to, and we're back at it. Brought to you by Andy Moore Honda right after this.
Perfect.
Welcome to your extra.
I'm glad Robbie was available, man. I'm so glad.
Me too.
Yeah. Hey, man, he to tell you, man, if you wanted to ask him about this, I know just from a life standpoint, I don't know too much about it, but I know he's adopted several kids, 1 or 2 kids. So Robbie's always had a big heart, man. So, you know, I know, you know, he's doing some great things where he's at. And you want to ask him about that, that'd be pretty cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Man, you need to find all those guys and write a book. Verdell Jones, the stuff that he's doing, he's trying to be mayor, he's want to be a fireman.
I love that.
He got the AAU kids that he does.
Man, I mean, look, man, I always tell people this. I mean, for me, you know, going to college helped me become middle class. And I'm not, you know, and I don't say that in a financial sense, but just more so on really from this middle place, you got two choices. You could take that time, you know, what was history and African-American studies really teaching you? Who knows, right? But you could take the time management and learning and asking questions and finding mentors to really help you gain a keen awareness to life, right? Or you can piss on it.
Yep. That's true, man.
You know, or you can piss on it. You know, I mean, just be real with you. You know, because
it's true. There's two ways to go.
Yeah, you know, because you didn't get what you wanted out of the basketball situation. So yeah, man. So I mean, it's great to hear, you know, a lot of guys out here achieving and doing things and affecting the community. It's awesome. Yeah, I'm a horse, man. We had a big weekend. I had some fifth grade games and and some high school girl games. High school girls came in first place this weekend.
Oh, we got hit that up.
Yeah, man. So and then fifth grade girls.
You didn't go to Atlanta, did you?
No. We stay here locally. We played against a team out of Shreveport, Louisiana. We're a little scrappy team. But you know, we came. We played well. We did everything we had to do. So
coming back.
Got you covered. They're Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. For deals like this, how about a new 2020 Honda Civic LX front-wheel drive lease for just $180 a month, or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Monday. Brought to you by Andy Moore Honda. Charlie Miller's with us as always. Robbie Eggers is going to join us. Let's see. I was talking to Charlie in the break. What were we talking about? Daggone it. Oh, your team of the weekend. You had multiple teams that you had out on the road. Fifth graders and the high school girls.
Yeah, man. So I had a fifth grade group. My niece is actually a coach of this team, and she was out of town doing a shooting camp. And I actually had to sub for her, and we went 2-0. The little girls had some fun times and playing some defense and, you know, scoring the ball. And then my high school girls, we went 5-0. We played in the tournament, played some tough teams, and played well this weekend. It was just good to see. Win or loss, no matter what. It was a progressive weekend, and it was fun. You know, and then I capped it off, Jim, with training some littles, some kindergarten through first grade kids. It's always a hoot. Because you never know what you're going to get, but it's all good, man. I just enjoy the process of development.
You know, this is a question that's popped up separate, and it's kind of a good question because I don't think when does the transfer portal close to players entering and for teams to recruit them? You know, that's a good question because I've never thought about that. I don't know that there's a time where you can decide to transfer at any moment, I think. But I would have to look into that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I don't know that exact date, but I think you have to let the schools know because at a certain point they have to get you back registered at school and all those admissions things. I think that happen. They need to go on.
Forrest thinks it's June 1st. Robbie Eggers joins us now. Robbie, our former teammate of Charlie's. Robbie, how are you, sir?
Things are good. It's good to see you guys.
Great to have
Robbie. How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. Good to see you, Charlie.
Yeah, bro.
Nice to meet you, Jim.
You might break to meet you. It's so funny when he said he was going to try to get you on. I don't know why, but of all the calendars, of all the years, you know, the pictures, the players' pictures they always used to do, for some reason, your picture is the one that comes out on my. If I think of calendars real quick, it's your picture. There must be a calendar that year. Must be a calendar somewhere that I see a lot, but Charlie Eggers' face is just in my mind all the time, and it's just when he said that, I'm like, that is so weird because I can see that circle just in my mind all the time.
It's one of two things. It's just I'm extremely handsome, or the fact that I was there so long. I was there for 5 years. I was on so many calendars, it just can't escape me. So,
I hope it's not a man crush, but if it is, it couldn't be a better one to have, I guess. But
awesome.
Yeah, thanks a lot for joining us. It's been fun. What's new with you, man? What have you been doing?
Wow. So I've been in kind of the business world since really getting out of IU. I've been in the sales industry in the last 16 plus years. I've been with one biotech company specifically based out in Thousand Oaks, California, but I am specifically based here in greater Indianapolis.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Anything to do with basketball? Do you do anything at all? Get to involve yourself or just follow along as a fan now?
Now just a fan, following along, just keeping my eyes on what's going on in the program. Most recently, I've had a chance to get down to, well, with the exception of this past year with the pandemic, get down to a couple of games because now I ironically have two daughters down at Indiana University. So, I mean, it's come full circle. So it gives me an excuse to get down to campus.
That's right.
Charlie, you're out and about, man. You guys got to get back together. How long has it been since you guys have been together?
Oh, man.
23
I
years?
believe it's been a few. Yeah, the last time I can recall was probably our senior night, Robbie.
Yeah. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. That's 98.
Yeah,
but we got a chat group, and we have a chat group, and Robbie spearheads that, and he's always checking in at holidays and just check how you guys doing. So he's always out front about it, and I that's why I thought about him and being on the call today. As also, I mean, Robbie, if you don't mind talking about this, because if I'm wrong, man, please help me out. Didn't you adopt some kids as well? Is that the case?
Yeah, so my wife and I, we were blessed to have 4 biological daughters. And so, as I just referenced, 2 of them are down at Indiana University now. And so roughly about 9 years ago, we just felt led that we should, look into adoption. And so we actually went through Department of Child Services and we fostered a little boy. We got him at 4 months and he's now 9 and he's the youngest of our 5 kids. So we ended up, getting a chance to adopt him when he was 18 months. And so, and ironically, the reason why I'm able to make this call is we were supposed to have our final interview to recertify to be foster parents just this morning, and they had to move it to next week, which allowed me the opportunity to jump on this call with you guys. So,
right. Listen, that's why, Jim, I wanted him on the call. Big heart, always had it, always was out front, supportive. And I mean, just as I always say, I always brag about Robbie. I brag about everybody from the managers. Robbie, guys are out there right now, head coaches in college and assistant coaches, man, just the things that we learned, I think, as players still go on today, whether we're playing the game or not. Right. Yeah. And I think, and that to me is why I've always been a Robbie Eggers fan.
I really appreciate that, Charlie. One of the things that, as a give back that my wife, who I met on a blind date at IU and ultimately ended up marrying, and now almost 22 years later, but one of the things that we've done through our experience of being foster parents is we've created a scholarship under our son's name. His name's Elijah. We call it Elijah's Cloak, where we send Indianapolis area foster kids to a camp in southern Indiana for a week in the summer. We don't solicit money for it. We send them. We've sent over 600 foster kids in the last 6 years down to this camp, just so they can experience the outdoors, get outside of, the situations they're a part of, experience outdoors, do some climbing, some hiking, some zip lining, just to kind of give them that experience that they would otherwise never touch.
Amazing.
It is amazing. And there are so many stories, maybe not as good as this one, but and I just referenced for Dell, the things he does, you, Charlie, you guys are, and now Rob, that I get to learn all this. I love learning about this, and I wish more people, and with this is what we're trying to do, and who knows how many people it could inspire to do that. But these stories need to be told to inspire people to know that they're out there. And thank you so much for sharing, Robbie, because I didn't know this too. And it's incredible, but it's not just about the pat on the back, because I know that's not why you do it at all. But the fact that people need that. There are kids that need that. There are kids that need people to do this. And if it does inspire one person, then that's great. That's one child that it's going to benefit.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And to circle back to the last time I saw Charlie, I was hoping to see you, back, roughly a year ago when Coach made his return. I mean, one of the things that was so amazing about that event is you kind of jump back into time. And it's like, as I was kind of engaging with a lot of the guys that I hadn't seen for a long time, it was really interesting. You kind of fall back into that mentality of being a 19-year-old kid all over again. But I missed seeing you there. It was a great event. It's one of those things where, life happens and people are spread across the United States. And it would really be great to kind of re-engage with a lot of folks, because the one thing I have missed and tried to replicate in my current life is that camaraderie that we had as young men in the locker room. Great people, as you alluded to, that are doing great things today. Really do miss that, and that's the reason why I send those texts out, is just to kind of check in and see how the guys are doing. That's
right. And again, that camaraderie, I think if anything, the chemistry, the locker room is what if we reflect back from the playing days, that's what I miss, because I think you grew in between losses, in between wins, where you communicated, where you talked to the athletic directors or talk to Buzz, academic advisors. Those were growth points, I think, for all of us. Sorry?
Yep. Buzz Kirpius. As soon as you said that, I was like,
hey, listen, I mean, funny story. I think when Buzz first moved back to Bloomington, I get a call out of nowhere. And this is guy who you may know, Robbie may not. His name is Antonio. And he's like, man, I'm over here helping Buzz move. I'm like, how? Then Harris, hey, what you doing, Charlie? He's with Harris and Harris Mazinovich, and they're helping Buzz move back in. So I'm like, it was so ironic, but it was like out of nowhere. But just kind of going back to what Robbie said, it puts you right back in that situation. I'm more than certain, and then seeing everybody too, right? I can only imagine seeing people who probably came back when we were playing, kind of came in the locker room, talked before game, after the game. That was pretty neat to see, man. That was really neat to see.
And the one thing I was amazed with, Charlie, I'll just share this, because, stepping back into the locker room, I don't know if you've been back in years, but, obviously there's been a lot of donations from, Oladipo and Zeller and others who are, obviously, successful NBA guys. The locker room is not what we experienced when we were there. It is radically different. It is so different.
So Robbie, I went to the game at Penn State, the Penn State game. And I think when you were there for Coach Knight's event, they were still renovating, preparing the second locker room. So actually, yes. So when I was there for Penn State, and that's where I met you, Jim. It was actually done, and they were like, Charlie, you're actually standing in the parking lot. Like, this gym is the parking lot. It's like the guys prefer this gym for practice, and the locker room, and then the other locker room for games. And I'm like, wow. It's just, you can sleep in there. You see the couches and the TVs and all the stuff, right?
Pool tables,
all that stuff, man. Just, it's amazing. The gyms. I was telling Jim here, we would have to go to the university school to practice. Like, because I think it came up, which way you prefer to practice, Assembly Hall. I'm like, well, we didn't really have many choices. If we had a tricycle event at Assembly Hall, which they used to have, who knows why? You had to go to the university school, right? So, but
did that happen? Did that happen? Did they have a tricycle? Like
a
fraternity?
I think it was the fraternities and sororities. Yeah, the fraternities and sororities had something going on, which I'm sure Knight loved.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine a tricycle. He can't practice because of a tricycle race. I would love to have been there when he was told that.
Yeah.
That's another reason why you all didn't get to have those locker rooms, though. Do you think there's any way in hell that they could have built those locker rooms while Knight was there? There's no way.
Nah.
No.
They
were old school.
He'd have tore them down. Yeah. But great to see him come back. Speaking of that, Robbie, so you were able to come back when Coach Knight came back?
I did. I had an opportunity to get back for that event, and it was really exciting and emotional, to be honest with you, because I think all of us were hopeful that at some point, as Coach continues to get older, that he would return. It means so much, not just to us as players and I know AJ was pushing hard for him to come back when he got inducted into the Indiana Hall of Fame. It didn't happen. And then it just, there's so many people having still lived here and still living here in the state. He still connects to so many different people. I mean, that the stories that you hear about Indiana basketball are generally tied to Coach. And so for him to come back, and I don't know that he really understands the impact that it means for a lot of fans throughout the state. It was really, really powerful.
Yeah, Indiana was successful before Bob Knight with 2 national championships, but you're right. That 30-year period, 3-decade period, it was the advent of TV, of all the things that you put all into the motion. Those 3 national titles, always in the mix, winning. It made Indiana basketball. I mean, I don't want to dilute Branch McCracken. He was a great coach. He won 2 national titles. But Bob Knight, certainly, you think of Indiana, it will always be Bob Knight and what happened in that 30-year span. And everybody wants to get back there. And I think they can get back to success, but I don't know you can ever get back to Bob Knight, because Bob Knight was a once-in-a-lifetime genius. His mind, how it works good ways and bad, but the good ways towards basketball was genius level. You just don't get that.
Yeah. But here is a did you know, and I might surprise Robbie with this one. So did you know that Coach Knight did not grow up too far from where Robbie grew up in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio?
I didn't. I knew where he's from in Orville.
Yeah, so he grew up in Orville, and I grew up just in Cuyahoga Falls, which is not too far away. And ironically, where I grew up, it's funny, when he came to do an in-house, recruiting visit as, a junior, I had committed to IU as a sophomore verbally. And of course, you can't do anything from a documentation perspective until you're right before your senior year. So he did his in-house visit, and my dad, I grew up in the house that my father grew up in, and literally less than a block away was a park that was called Lions Park. And at that park is where, back in the day, all of the NBA players played outdoors. They didn't, in the summer they had jobs or whatever, and they would come play here. And so ironically, when he and my dad started talking, they shared all of these stories of how my dad was not a player, but he would go down to the park and watch all of these incredible names of that historic period, because they all came to that park to play. And so Knight had all of these stories of driving into essentially a block away from my house to play. And the other thing that a lot of people don't know, but if you go back and look at Knight's history, his first job out of Ohio State was a history teacher at my high school.
Yeah.
So he, which has always cracked me up, because when I was being recruited at Cuyahoga Falls, you can imagine now the parents that were the parents of my friends who had lived in that area, they all claimed they played for him. Which I don't know how you field a team of about 40 people, because every person had a story of how they played. It was all garbage. But everybody wanted to have a story. And so, he was there for 1 year before heading over to Army.
That's crazy. I did know about the high school thing. I forgot. I didn't know it was your high school. I did not put that together. That is a cool story. Yeah. And those guys you mentioned, that probably Jerry Lucas, all those guys he played with at Ohio State. You talk about some of the NBA greats. So, and they're probably calling their friends. Man, that great day is for sure. But that is an incredible story.
I remember when I was in high school, there were still players that, the Cavaliers, Richfield Coliseum was not that far away. We used to play in my high school and at that park with guys like Mark Price and John Bagley, and a lot of guys would come out to play. Now, you would never see that happen today, although you occasionally see like Durant playing at a park or something. That occasionally happens today, but with the money these guys make, obviously they can't do that now. But it was an experience to have a chance to play against some of these guys.
Yeah, growing up, I remember the stories of the guys in a high school gym, whatever the local. There was always a spot, and then it was a high school gym. It was a park, but there's always a spot in every place, man, and that's where it'd be. And you could go watch down in Louisville. It was I forget the old gym, Crawford Gym. They used to have hot, low ceiling, hot as blazes. Just all. Everybody has one of those places. And they're all the cool spots to play. But
I want to share this. When I was, and it didn't click in, but when I was younger, I would go home, Robbie, in the summertime back to Miami, and I would play against Steve Smith, who went to Michigan State. He was playing for the Miami Heat, and also Glenn Robinson, who would play at Michigan, right? So kind of similar ways we would play University of Miami. This is before they built up their campus, because it was like a rock throw away from my house. It was like a 10-minute walk. My doorstep to the campus, a 10-minute walk. So I would have a chance to play against those guys, not realizing the value of, former Big Ten players. You get a chance to play against professionals, right?
Yeah.
But good stuff. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's just all that is just incredible to see. We got to take a quick break. Hopefully, if Robbie can hang out, he'll hang out with us, and we got plenty more to get to. And we'll be back with it from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Charlie Miller, Robbie Eggers. I'm Jim Coyle. We'll be back right after this. Hey, Hoosier fans! Whether you're looking for a new look at that. How about those numbers? Damn!
Nice.
Come on! Ooh, shooter.
Nice.
Stroker ace. Oh man, where are you up there, Robbie?
I live on the Geist Reservoir up here in like the Fishers area in the northeast corner of Indy. Yeah. So.
Hey, is Richard still in Cali?
I believe he is. It's interesting, because the company I work for is based out of Thousand Oaks, and so now obviously we haven't traveled for over a year, but when I would go out there for a training or do something for corporate, I would try and get together with him. I think he's got a couple of restaurants and stuff that are out there. So, but I think he's doing well. But like I said, most often it's the only time I ever really engage with anybody is in the
text group.
The text group, yeah. I occasionally talk to Brian. He's here in the Carmel area.
Okay. Now is Brian doing insurance? Is that right? Or I also see a new venture he's doing.
He's doing something with Green. Something with maybe sleep
apnea.
Yeah. Yep. So, and I think he also is. I could be wrong on this because I don't want to misrepresent it, but I want to say he's got something in the device world where he owns a distribution group or something. So,
there we go.
But
I spoke to Andre briefly yesterday. He's with the Cavs.
He's still there. Okay, good.
Yeah. We spoke briefly, and hopefully we can get him on the show. He was on the show last week. We kind of miss each other, but
he's been there like 4 years now, right?
About that, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize he'd been there that long. I was like, wow, he's been, I think, 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's been great because he reached out when he was looking for areas to live. He's like, where should I look? And I was like, well, let me ask my parents. I haven't been up there for it's been since '93. Then I've been home, so I can't tell you where to look up that area. But and he's got a new littler one, right?
Oh, I didn't know that. If you did, I
think so. I think it's a couple years old, maybe
Okay.
I might be wrong.
Coming back.
Nation, French Lick, West Baden, Indiana. You'll find great places to visit, to stay, to dine, and to play. We offer an up-close animal encounter with elephants and giraffes, lodging that is out of this world, world-class golfing, and a premier resort experience that is waiting for you on your next visit to French Lick, West Baden.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Monday. Charlie Miller sitting in as he always does, and joined by special guest Robbie Eggers, former teammates. Robbie joining us. IU basketball, of course, new direction. Mike Woodson, Dane Fife, and crew coming in, and man, they've hit the ground running. The roster is full, and the cupboard is overfilled. They're working on 2022. A big change from what we've seen in the last couple of years, looks like to be coming.
Yeah, I think everyone out here is optimistic. I think they're excited with the Woods hire, and as an alumni and a fan, I'm really excited about what they're putting together. So we'll see. It's been heart wrenching because all of us want the best for IU basketball, and it's been really, really challenging over the years to watch it. But hopefully he brings, and I think Dane will bring some grit to this team. I mean, Dane's always been known kind of a tough-nosed kid that has done an amazing job, whether it be head coaching or assistant up at Michigan State. So I'm excited to see what they put together. And I like the way that they structured it. I think with Woodson coming in and then also having kind of the basketball operations piece, which is I know it's a growing component to what some schools are doing, but I like the aspect that they're trying something different.
Yeah, I was talking. Me and Charlie were talking about it earlier. They've got it structured in a way because they're working on all of these things at once. They're working on the recruiting for this year, recruiting for next year, but you've got guys that are in-house now that are behind in development. So you've got to work on that and work on the current development. Then work on implementation of your style for next year, defensively, offensively, because it's going to be different. So there are so many different things. So you need a Thad Matta as the administrator, and he needed an assistant and it sounds kind of crazy, but they are doing it a different way, and it seems to be working. Of course, that'll be spelled out on the court, and that's the comment I've just put up is probably the best comment I've seen from Viper Too Fast fan. Reasonable expectations, make the NCAA tournament. Anything more than that is nice. If a fan goes in with that expectation, you're going to have a great year. Let them become and play, but that's not what we do.
Well, I can tell you, when I think back to the years that Charlie and I were down there in that kind of that mid 90s to end of the 97, 98 era, we won 20 some games a year. We made the NCAA tournament. We typically, unfortunately, lost in the first or second round. I think your senior year, Charlie, we got past. We lost to Connecticut, who ultimately won it all.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because at that time, we were seen as a failure. People were up in arms.
Right.
And then now it's become like, gosh, when's the last time we touched the NCAA tournament?
Well, right. And think about that. You win 80 plus games, right? I mean, it was 80 plus games, but expectations, entitlements, whatever you want to call them, and it's all good because that's what comes with being an IU, right? But so, and I'm totally with you to get back to that respect level of making it, which I felt the year before. I think without COVID, they go.
Right.
I feel they go. I think it was an outstanding win against Penn State at home. Then they went on the road and won. I forget who they played against. I think the resume spoke for itself, but I think COVID kind of halted that. But, it's going to be interesting to see the expectations coming into this season as well.
Yeah, and it's going to be because we don't know what it's going to look like.
Right.
From my standpoint, I have no idea. I know what they have, but I don't know what they're doing with it. I don't know how they're changing it, tweaking it. Rob Finney, perfect example. He's almost become, I don't want to say a pet project of Dane's, but you can tell his biggest issue has been a complete lack of confidence, it looks like. And Dane has just said, this is a great kid, and I'm going to get him back and get him back to being the defensive Big Ten player that he should be. And I think that is a definite focus of Dane's that he's going to take on Rob Finney. That could turn out to be he could be the defensive stopper next year that needs to turn his team around. I don't know, but that's just one of the things we don't know.
Yeah, I think the expectations for Rob is really high. I mean, I hate to see that. You can kind of see it too, as you alluded to, some of the confidence and the lack of confidence.
Yeah.
If Dane can turn that around, I think this kid from a defensive perspective is fantastic. I love to see him become more offensive minded. I think he has that ability, but can he get the confidence built to do some of those things? And I would love to see that happen. I think it'll be a turning point if they can turn him around.
Yes. I agree.
Charlie, his importance, how important is he? I mean, he's a veteran. He's been here 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is. He is the guy that's probably got more experience than anybody. I think he is the guy that has more experience on this team than anybody.
Well, every game I've watched of him, I've always been a fan of his, and also he guards the best scorers. I mean, and so on other teams. So, and that's a responsibility in itself, right? But then offensively, you could see that lack of confidence, but I'm rooting for him to gain a new perspective and begin again. And I can see someone like Dane. who can really instill that value of have that grit and perseverance, and also, you know, the confidence to take that next shot as a best shot mentality. I can see that coming from Dane as well, to Rob.
And then we haven't talked about the different personalities. Dane, of course, we know personality. I don't know if that even begins to describe him, because that's a branch that just starts going in a lot of different places. But you've got Mike Woodson, who is an older veteran.
Right.
You've got Thad Matta. You know, how does he work? So you've got a lot of different personalities that works well, because you've got kids. Not every kid is coached the same way, approached the same way, and dealt with the same way, or and reached the same way. Both you guys know that, because know it better. You're currently coaching, and you've been doing it your whole time, Rob. Talk about that and having these different personalities and why that's so important.
Go ahead, Rob.
Well, so it's interesting. Obviously, I haven't had the chance to engage in coaching from a basketball perspective, but as a leader and a coach, and now a director in the world that I'm in, you know, it's imperative that you take the skill sets that people are really talented at and you build upon those, and then you help whatever shortcomings they have. You got to make those things better. And as a leader, I think it's important, and I think that they're putting the right pieces into place to help to bring some of those diverse skill sets that this team offers. Because if you look across the team, there's talent. It's how do they get those different talents to coincide with one another on the court. And I think if they can pull this off, I like what talent they have down there. I mean, I don't think it's ever been a question of do they have the right talent. It's about, can people perform at the skill level that everybody has the expectations by which they come in with. You know, I think all fans have been a little bit frustrated with, you see these players come in, they seem to be exceptional, and it seems to whatever reason, I don't know if it was the environment or confidence or lack of confidence, they seem to like almost play below where they came in at. And so I'm hopeful. I really am. And I think that if they can, you know, pull this off, there's going to be an exceptional season in the upcoming year.
Yeah, and to add to what Robbie said, I think from a business perspective, I think it's all universal, Robbie. It's you said it. This is the way I kind of tune it. It's you practice on people's blind spots, right? They're what they have to get better at, but you help them play and perform in their bright spots, you know. And I think it's a forever honing process, right? It's more question driven than answer. It's more solution provide, and I think it's a reminder. Right? Not saying they're thinking this way at 17, 18, 19, but I think it's universal at helping people perform at what I call your top 20% skill set. What do you do best? You need to do that all the time. Put that on repeat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so as we get back around, there's a player. I've talked about this before. There was a players disconnect because we've had generations. You talked about the night guys. Now there's if you want to count, Dockage, Sampson, Crean, and Miller. So you've had 30 years of night guys, but then you've got this shorter section of guys under multiple different coaches, which makes it a different kind of a dynamic. Bringing that all together has been hard, but that's something that is trying to be accomplished right now. How do they do that, Charlie? How does that come about?
Well, I think I'm gonna take AJ Guyton's word, you know, to galvanize, right? So I don't feel, and Robbie, I said this, it might be a joke, but I literally said, man, I think the hire of Coach Woodson, and I feel also the hiring of Coach Fife, the board of trustees were the fans and the former players. I feel the fans rant and raved strong enough, you know. I think former players emailed Scott Dolson enough, you know. It just happened to work out. But with that being said, I think the generational gap is you could take the old school of the 70s and 80s with Coach Woodson into the 2000s with Dane. And again, with respect to Coach Crean, Coach Dockage, Coach Sampson, and Coach Miller, galvanize the group. Bring us back, bring everybody back for support. Like we saw in our locker room. Night in, night out, we would see a lot of guys, Robbie, that I wouldn't even know played but they would come back and be so supportive and be so humble as well. So I think that's what I feel, that Coach Woodson and Frank may bring back.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Charlie. I'll share this story, and I hope Brian doesn't mind sharing. But when they started to make phone calls to try and connect with former players to bring them back a year ago when Knight made his return, I was like, Brian, why you guys don't want Robbie Eggers? Why does it matter if I show up? And he's like, because you were a part of something for 5 years. And I was like, and part of this was my own issue that I needed to overcome. I came into Indiana with high expectations, All-American out of Ohio, didn't really play or live up to the expectations. And, Brian, he really challenged me. And he gave me the freedom to say, you know what? I put in just as much blood, sweat, and tears as everybody else. I didn't necessarily play as much as everybody else, but I worked really, really hard to ensure that in the practice sessions and everything else that we were prepared in the games, and I had to get over my own way and get out of my own way on that. And Brian really pushed me. That he's like, I don't ever want to hear you say anything about you don't deserve to be down there. He goes, you were a part of this. You need to come down there. You need to celebrate the 5 years you put in down there. Like statistically, if you look at my statistics, they're terrible, whatever. But I was a part of something special with you guys. And obviously the as I mentioned earlier, the camaraderie and the teamwork. And those were some of the best years as I reflect back on them. Years that I wouldn't trade for anything.
Well, I'm going to tell you something right now, Rob. And I call it this. It's funny. And this is true. Never should on yourself, man. We don't should. Right. And let me tell you, because BF called me, and this was as funny as you said, Brian. He called me and we had a conversation when I first got to Dallas. And I was telling him all of what I was doing at the time. I was in corporate America. I was a sales manager. And he was like, basically reiterating what you said. But he was like, hey, man, now you can go out and do X, Y, Z, ABC. And I said, man, yeah, it's like, you got that kind of embarrassment. You didn't live up to it or whatever it was. But, man, hey, there's no shitting on this call, right? Mm-hmm. I'm celebrating Robbie Eggers, the one I know who, again, was instrumental setting those big screens in practice, getting everybody ready to play against whoever, right, in battles, man. And that, to me, is the testament of what you're doing today, right? So this is why we did what we did 20-plus years ago, man. And again, that 4-year journey in school always comes down to the 40-year journey that we're after right now, man. And we're on that second half of that 40-year journey, man. So I'm always a big fan of Robbie Eggers, and who cares all about that stuff? I care about what you're doing now as a person, man. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Well, and the cool thing is, as you look at these alumni, there's a lot of people doing a lot of good out there, and that's the cool thing.
Yeah.
So
we got to take a break, but I want to continue that because that's amazing, and I've never thought about that. But the importance of the Robbie Eggers and the fact that they had that feeling blows me away. Because I know without even having been there, I know the importance of Robbie Eggers, and Robbie Eggers is a faceless name for this purpose. I know those importance because I played this weekend. I was with a guy named Scott Sequel that was with Michigan State back in the day, and I think he reminds me a lot of Robbie Eggers from when I'm looking at Scott's deal right now. But we'll talk about that more when we come back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Charlie Miller and Robbie Eggers have taken the time to join us. We'll be back right after this. Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking for a new or yeah, that does blow me away. Wow, that's another great story. I never ever even thought of that.
Like you said, Charlie, it's one of those things where you just have to appreciate what you did and what you accomplished. And that's what Brian essentially says. Like, look, we couldn't have done what we did without you being a part of that as a collective unit, And he's like, well, he goes, here's the thing is that the guys that, and this is why I deeply appreciate that kind of like 7 through 12 guy, is because a lot of those guys, they work just as hard as the guys at the time. They just don't necessarily always get that quote unquote recognition. And so he kind of like allowed me to get out of my own head on that. And so I've been, it's not that I didn't support IU basketball. I always have. I always have engaged fans and talked to them about my experience. And of course they always want to know stories, but it's kind of giving me the freedom to say, you know what, I was a part of something special. And I really appreciate, obviously, the teammates over the years. in the relationships that I wish we could, like I said, could get together more often, but
Yes.
it's challenging.
Yes. I mean, no, I listen, man, I totally get it. And I just think about, again, on a positive note, we helped Coach Knight win over 80 games, right? Yep. And I think you probably be 100. It's your 50th year.
Charlie.
Yeah.
Charlie, quick thing. You were saying shoulding, right? You weren't saying
yes. I meant to come on and say.
Yeah, on purpose, should have.
I just wanted to make sure because if there was something else, I had to go in there and cut it out. I wanted to make sure.
I heard it.
Shoulding.
I listened to him the second time. I'm like, yeah, he said should. And I meant to tell us that he's saying should, by the way.
I'm not saying that.
Good to know. Good to know.
Should, because should is a comparison word, man. And I think, and I said
should have, could have, would have.
Yeah, and I said this before, Robbie, like several shows ago. It's like, it's the expectation turns to entitlement. Like I talked to Townsend Orr, who lives here. Townsend Orr played at Minnesota. And we were talking, he played, remember that 53-point loss? You were there, Robbie.
Yes.
Right? So he was on that team. He was a junior that year. And he lives here in Frisco, Texas. I live in Carrollton, like we're neighboring cities. And we were talking talking about basketball expectations. But that expectations, man, you were trying to follow, and people were trying to put you to Coach Calvin Chaney. And I said, yeah, it was an entitlement that I didn't really understand.
Hey, Charlie, hate to cut you off, but we're coming back in 10 seconds.
I'm ready. I'm good.
At wearebroadcasters.com/hope, furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sillersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios on this Monday. We're fortunate to be joined by Charlie Miller as always, and Robbie Eggers is taking the time to spend with us in a great conversation about how coming back to celebrate Bob Knight's return last year was hard for him because, and I never really thought about this, man, because there's so many guys, every player, they have their own dreams. They have their own hopes when they go to wherever it is they go, and things just don't always work out. And back in the day, they didn't have a lot of recourse. And now we're seeing all these kids in the portal. Some of it's not for that reason. There's a lot of different reasons, but there are some that just, that's why their dreams aren't working out. And man, I can't imagine, we've talked to some players, what that would have been like had this portal been around back in that day. But yeah, the fact that you stayed and sacrificed and went through that, because that would have been a sacrifice. Your dreams and your goals are not being reached as you would like them to be there, but yet you stayed and made yourself available as other guys did to be part of and making a team better. So that's what people need to make sure that the guys like you know that, because it hasn't been said enough. All the adulation goes on, I guess, the stars, because that's where the light shines, but practice, there are no lights.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Back in '97, we had just, or maybe it was the year prior, it was the year that Chauncey Billups basically destroyed us in the NCAA tournament. As you remember, Charlie, challenging year. Yeah, and so when we came back, there was some one-on-one interviews with Knight on each of us as soon-to-be returning seniors, and I can distinctively remember that conversation with him, and it was actually affirming in a lot of ways because I hadn't played that much that year, and so when I sat down and had my one-on-one with him, he basically said, hey, look, I can help you go wherever you want. Obviously, you have to go to a lower division school to play because you've already redshirted, but I would like to help you and give you that opportunity to do so. And I looked at him and said, hey, I came to Indiana 4 years ago. I intend to finish my collegiate career here. I was like 3 credit hours away from graduation. I was like, Coach, I committed to you. This is where I want to be. And his words were affirming to me because he looked at me and said, that's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. He's like, you've done a tremendous job of helping these guys prepare. I can't guarantee you a lot of playing time, one of the things I've always appreciated about you is that you've worked really, really hard behind the scenes. So, as I share that with you about, there is a lot of guys that put forth a lot of effort. And one of the things that was always affirming for me from Coach was like, look, I want you here, but I also want to give you that opportunity. If you desire to go actually play and get an opportunity to play more minutes, I can help you do that as well. But
So now the game, the way players are approached, it's so much. Everyone is looking to be developed for the NBA. They're looking for quicker stops. Then you've got the kids that aren't, and as a team, you've got to have a blend of kids that are going to be there for continuity, and you've got to have elite talent, but be able to blend that and blend it year after year. That's got to be such a difficult thing to do now with the frequency of how many moving parts there constantly are.
Think about this, guys. In the 80s, there were 15 spots in the NBA. There were 3 rounds of NBA draft. And a lot of those third rounders played. Now, not saying anything, not projecting, but a 6'10", 250, 260 guy, I can see him making a roster because points weren't that big of emphasis. So someone to me like a Robbie Eggers could play. I mean, not just be setting screens. You can shoot. Robbie can shoot. Robbie can play. He can shoot the 3.
Saw those numbers earlier.
Listen, you slip. I'm listening to you, Rob.
So it's interesting is, obviously I didn't, like I said, score a lot of points when I played Indiana. But if you remember, and Charlie, you were gone and we were all gone, but I went and played with Athletes in Action in 98 and came back and played Indiana. I scored more points in that single game versus Indiana against Dane, against, Lynn Washington and others. I shot 5 for 5 from the 3-point line, scored more points in that game than I did my entire senior season.
Yeah.
It was but it also brought a lot of closure. So it was fun. A lot of fun.
You take that, but see, again, it's like in hockey, they'll create that hockey assist, right? The hockey assist. I passed to Jim passes to Robbie. Jim gets the assist in basketball, but in hockey, I get the assist as well. So that's why, again, man, it's so therapeutic to have these conversations because I think we all had a taste that we want to go play as long as we want to play. It didn't work out. You kind of left alone. You figure out the business world or whatever. But, man, we matter, man. And that's why, again, I loved having you on this call, not only learning more about your journey, which is similar to mine as well, but to also just have an opportunity to reflect back on a lot of things that we've done and what we're doing today that's bringing impact to this world and making this world a better place. And I think that, to me, is what it's always about.
Yeah, no,
absolutely. Seeing you guys, the success that I get to see from all of that, I love it. And learning these new stories, love it. And like getting to talk to you, Robbie, it's just I could sit here all day and enjoy and soak this in and love every second of it.
Well, I also want to say, go, Robbie.
I was just saying, I'll say this real quick. One thing is for certain: you have a former Knight player. We have stories. Period. You may not always get them, but we have them.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Yeah. Well, and this is what I was going to say. This is why it's important to have us back in that locker room. I'm not saying we were not invited, but I think it's to help the 7th through 12th guy who right now the seeds are being planted. You're not who you say you are. You're not as good as you used to be. Man, you're a failure. You can't go back. That's why it's good to have guys that went through that you all say, man, you went through that too? Yeah. You're going to overcome it as well, man, just to really help those guys, because, again, if that NBA dream or playing overseas dream may have been shattered, there's life after that whistle. There's definitely life after that whistle.
What's coming up for next year, Robbie? I know you're just busy ongoing all the time. What's up next for you?
Well, like I said, in the business world, I just got a promotion started 2 weeks ago where I'm now the director of the Midwest for the company I'm with. And so right now I'm just trying to get my foundation under me. There's a lot coming at me from a business perspective. I love what I do because in a lot of ways, although not involved with basketball, I still get the opportunity to coach and help develop people, which is one of my passions. So, that's kind of what's next for me. So
how much does that basketball, that development learning go into what you're doing, that exact development of those people?
Everything. Everything that we learned while we were under coach. One of the things that I think that, and I don't think it's underappreciated from coach because I think it's well documented, is he was so strategic in everything he did and the things that he taught us. And so it's that vision and that strategic view of where we are going, not where we are, but where we're going, and something oftentimes what the competitors are going to do that has tremendously helped me in the business world, right? Because we're all competing against somebody. And
right.
so, as we kind of think through, hey, what's our move and what's the potential counter move to what we do? It has been tremendous in helping me in my development and growth as a business person.
We've got to end the radio side of things. I'd love to take just a couple of minutes after that just to expand on that, because there are so many of you that I can look back that are night guys that are successful in many different ways. And I'm like, there's no accident to that. Charlie's been one of those examples too. Like I said, Verdell, and I can just go down the line, and not Verdell, but I can just go down the line of guys that are successful and they're all in different ways. It could be coaching. It could be something totally different from coaching. Pat Graham, he's not a coach. Well, he did coach his kids, but it goes on and on and on. Charlie, you're one of the best examples. Charlie, what is coming up this week? You had a great weekend. What's coming up next for you?
Just another week of player development. I mean, that's it. Just practice tonight, coming up very shortly, and that's it. My kids were out of town in Hot Springs last weekend, so that's pretty much it, man. It's Groundhog Day. Like taking notes, watching film, Robbie. I still got all 4 years of notepads.
I do too. I still have all 5 of mine. So.
You got 5.
That's funny, the notepads. All right, we got in the radio side of things. Unfortunately, if you're in Evansville, stick around for Dan Gursky coming up next, and we'll have a little overtime until tomorrow for the rest of you. I'm Jim Coyle for Charlie Miller and Robbie Eggers. Thanks a lot. Do something nice for somebody. Wear your mask, and until then, I will see you on the radio. Okay, guys. There are so many of you guys that are successful, but it's because those notebooks. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, Todd Leary, I've probably done more with Todd than anybody, and he's got everything. He's got every bit of memorabilia, and I'm like the notebooks, and it's amazing. The notebooks are amazing. I wonder how unique that was. I know other teams probably did it, especially older coaches, but I wonder how unique that was and how much that had to do with Bob Knight starting out as a teacher. He was a big history buff. I always knew that. I didn't realize it was history is what he taught, so that explains that. But and Todd would always talk about every time he would go someplace, the trips would be purposely planned to take in things to learn, making sure that you guys learn things. Yeah. How important is all of that in your development? It was really an unbelievable. I don't think people have any clue how wide-ranging and well-rounded of an education players got under Bob Knight.
Yeah, I think even thinking back on it, he obviously had strong military connections, but I was lucky enough to go out to Malibu twice with different teams with Knight, and both times we had a chance to visit Pearl Harbor. We got behind the scenes view of certain things. I mean, the history and the way that you're right. He was very strategic about whenever we traveled. He tried to make it a point to ensure that we had some element of, education component tied to it. He was very, very strategic about that.
Yeah, you talk about that, and I don't know if you recall, Robbie, we're going to play Kansas on a neutral site, and he went on this rant in the locker room. Before we were able to get on the plane, we had to turn in a paper about one of the presidents who was from that area. You remember that? You don't remember that? We had to turn the paper. He made us. We had to. It was, who knows if he looked at it, but it was basically he wanted us to be more well-rounded. So before you get on the plane, you got to turn this paper in on. I forget the president who was from that area.
Eisenhower? Who's from Kansas? Roosevelt? No,
was from Kansas. Lauren, we had to write a paper. Who knows if you looked at it or not? But it was just you stay on your toes in that regard, right? You just are always on your toes, and you never know what you're going to get or what you have to turn in or something like that. But Robbie, I tell you, one of the best stories that Coach Knight ever said to me, man, and I don't know why he said it to me. I think to this day, that's why I teach. And again, you're teaching too. I don't know if he was mad. I don't know. He just turned to me and said, Charlie, if you ever want to know how to effing do something, you got to learn how to teach it. And I was like, why would you say that? But then it hit me. He was a teacher. And that's why I tell people Coach Knight was a teacher. And I think that's why we are how we are today, Rob. He taught us, man. I don't know the X's and O's. Anytime he wrote a play up, because we never ran plays. I don't never execute any play on a timeout. But he put us in space and we played, we figured it out. But he said that to me. If you're willing to do something, you gotta learn how to teach it. And I don't know why he said that, but that's the seed he planted in me. And that's the journey I've been on, Rob. I would say the last 15 years of my life. Learning how to teach anything I do, man. Teach life as a sport. And I think that's what we want to impart more in people than anything else.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that maybe lost, because you said, hey, what's that foundational thing that a lot of these alumni that stick through the Knight program and ultimately turn out to be successful is he drove in perseverance, whether we wanted it or not. I mean, we went through a lot,
yes,
just to say a little.
Yes,
and I think that that's lost in a lot of ways today. And I heard you guys speaking to the portal as I was jumping on, and I don't know a lot about it yet because I haven't really researched it. But to me,
just think Wild Wild West.
And I get it. I think in a long way. I mean, I think if it's due to the pandemic where you can kind of move quickly, that's fine. I get it. But at some point, we got to shut that off because I think what it's driving is what Knight was so great about was perseverance is going to build character, which is then going to help you be successful. And now that everybody, and it's just modern day world, it's like, I don't like this, I quit. I walk away. And so there's no grit, there's no ability to kind of fight through the challenges in life. And so it's just easy to quit. Everything in life is easy to quit, you know? And so if there's one underlying thing that I would say that Knight instilled on all of us was like, look, I'm going to push you beyond every limit that you think you can even endure. And you're not going to quit because I'm not going to let you quit. And because I think you can be better than what you actually are. And and I think that's what I think has been one of those underlying values that he built in us. So
I think the great story is following exactly up on that. How many success stories there are. I'm sure it's not 100%. No one gets 100%, but the percentage is unbelievably high. And it's just amazing on how it was accomplished. And we all know that there was a downside to that. There always is with everything, I guess. But it sure sounds like a multitude of the players were able to weed through and figure out how to net the things they needed to net and let the debris go through, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it was I think the culture around the country collegiately, it wasn't that easy to just go somewhere else. We had players that did that, right? But even to that, I think this is more culture driven, right? Where again, I don't know if these players will have this opportunity, Robbie, to really understand what it means to to grit it out, to work it out, because I think they do have, I want to go make money. I want to play at the next level, probably in mind. I got to go play for a coach who's a better fit, system better fit. Not saying it's wrong, right? But it just gives more of an out, than I think we were probably exposed to versus learning how to really play through that,
Yeah, and I'm not anti-portal. I'm just saying, look, because there's not always the right fit. And there needs to be a way for a kid not to be, quote unquote, locked in. But the ability to just get up and leave and play the next year, I struggle with that a little bit. And I think it's going to hurt the game. I mean, look, when you have coaching changes or it's, whatever, but it's going to be interesting to see how college basketball endures in the next couple of years.
Well, especially when you have 18-year-old kids who I know well past 18. I'm not making always great decisions, and you can't expect an 18-year-old kid, if he's allowed to do it on his own, to make great decisions, or 19. It's not, you can't even blame them. So we shouldn't, but we'll see how it works out. A great comment there by Tim to end it. When you teach something, you basically reteach yourself and continue learning. Good little comment on what Charlie was talking about. Man, guys, this has been absolutely a blast. Rob, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it, how much fun it's been learning the stories, just talking to you, getting to see you and meet you. It's been a blast. And love for you to come back anytime you want, as often as you like.
Hey, just send me a note. Like I said before, I was probably hesitant to jump on something like this, but hey, when Charlie says, "Hey, would you mind doing this?" I looked at my calendar. I was like, "Let me make this work." So I'll be there for you.
I appreciate you, man.
And now it's a good excuse to get Charlie up here, get you closer, and but we're going to work on getting some people to Bloomington this summer.
That'd be awesome.
Me and Charlie.
Yes.
Well, guys, man, Charlie, what do you got coming up this week? You're just working on your camps and working on development.
Yeah, actually, I have a player. We talk about it. I got a player in the transfer portal, Robbie. I'm going to go train at 11 o'clock.
Okay. Nice.
Good kid. I want to have him on relatively soon to talk about that aspect of what it's like being in the portal. You know, not necessarily why you're doing it, but what it's like. And I know the angst that's on him. I know the angst on him, the things that we talk about, man, just, you know, but I want to talk about the inside view, you know, of that. Not necessarily why he made the decision, but, you know, what it's like being in the portal, because I don't understand that, right? I mean, it's like, you know, and I don't want to talk negatively about that. I'm looking at objectively speaking, looking to support him as much as I can.
It's some people may think it's a Star Trek thing where you actually beam me down, beam me up, Scotty. But guys, I guess it's been an absolute blast as always. Can I thank Charlie enough for getting Robbie to come on with us, man? Great putting a live face to my poster, Rob, that I see every. It's posted in my mind.
Chisel face, man. Chisel face. That's what I'm talking about. Love it. Love it.
All right, man. Guys, I hope you go out and have a great day. And thanks to the people, of course. Without you guys, we've got nothing to do here. But go out and do something nice for somebody. Continue to wear your mask, please. And until tomorrow, for Charlie and Rob Eggers, I'm Jim Coyle.